Alright guys, we're going to continue playing the last cube. The background is a guy called Jordan Maxwell. Sometimes I listen to the guy when I'm playing games. I listen to a lot of stuff.
One-on-one experience, and so I can speak with authority on my own personal experiences, and I can talk about what other real authorities have said on the different subjects. So that's what I do.
The only thing I don't like,
you
can't see anything.
And I've talked with all of them over the many years I've been doing this kind of research and talking and reporting for some 55, 56 years now. 56 years now. So I've been around, I've been all over the world, I've heard all the stories, I've met all kinds of interesting, fascinating people, important people, writers, authors, lecturers, teachers, astronauts, politicians, gangsters, and everybody else. So I've heard all the stories. So that's why I enjoy talking to people about all the things that they've never heard before. And that's why it's a real pleasure to be on your show. So where do we go? Where do we go from here?
Dr. Maxwell, before we enter our subject, can you comment the victory of Donald Trump as the new president of the United States?
Actually, in fact, no, because I don't really know that much about Donald Trump. All I know is that he's been a success in his life on his own. You know, and I remember many years ago, Donald Trump, from many years ago, watching his company and what he was doing. I wasn't that interested, but I knew about him many years ago, and watching him building the hotels, etc., etc. But I have always been apolitical. I have no, like George Carlin says, I don't have a dog in this race. I don't care about politics. I don't care about the government. I don't care about politics, and I really don't care about the politics in America. But having said that, I do have knowledge about words and terms and symbols, and things which are important to Americans that they don't know it yet. Nobody's told them yet, but there's a lot of things which are very important to know about American life, about American history, about American commerce and business, and where America came from, where it is now, and where it's heading. So I don't really have any views one way or the other about Donald Trump or the election at all. I just know that the whole entire world is lost because knowledge is power, and the people of the whole world, all the way around the earth, because I've been around the world more than one time, and I know people are generally speaking around the world ill-informed, unread. They just live from day to day, doing whatever it is they do, and and in point of fact, not being able to express a personality. There's just one more person out there on the street doing whatever it is that the people do. And like I said to you last time, no child in school likes to be made fun of and laughed at by the other students. So children always like to hang together and be friends and not stand out, so all the other children will laugh at you and mock you. And so, children even have committed suicide because they were outcast, they were mistreated by their fellow students, and they lost heart, and they lost the reason for even living. because they wanted to be accepted by their friends, and their friends laughed and mocked them, and so they ended up committing suicide. I've seen that happen before. And so I feel the same way about adults. Adults do not like to be laughed at, mocked, and chided, and especially proven wrong on something they've always believed. All their life they believe something, and then one day somebody comes along and shows you absolute solid proof that you're wrong on what you believe. Well, like my dad used to tell me many years ago, do not try and teach a pig to sing, because it will waste your time and irritate the pig. So don't try and teach a pig to sing. Meaning, don't try and make people see the truth. So it's just making enemies. So I learned a long time ago, I just put the work out there. I just put the documents and the materials and the truth out there. And whoever's supposed to hear it, hear it. I mean, you don't know supposed to hear it, they will. Whoever cares, that's fine. Whoever does care, obviously, I don't care. American politics is no longer interesting. We have a head of for sure, but I am kind of curious about where America is going to go. Now that it's kind of like a lose-all game, the old game's over, and now let's see what the new game is going to be. And that way I am kind of curious. But I don't have a problem with it. I don't care. I'm 76 years old. I got no family. I have nothing. I don't know really care what guy runs the president. I heard that before and try and educate my fellow man. So that's what I do. Do the best I can with it. Well, where do we go from there?
Well, Maxwell, we know for sure that banking is a real adopter of work.
That's exactly right.
How did this happen?
Yeah. Well, it happened actually probably goes back to, I don't know, maybe I would say the 3rd or 4th century AD. 3rd or 4th century AD, especially the 5th century when the fall of the Roman Empire, when Rome finally officially collapsed and fell, right around, I think it's 426 AD, something like that. And then with the Roman Empire collapsing, the powers that be behind Rome, that's something a lot of people don't know, is that behind Caesar, Caesar and the Roman government was one thing, but the real power were the people who owned Caesar, the people that Caesar represented behind the scenes. So Caesar was like our president in America, but our president really doesn't have much to say about anything. It's the guys who have, the investments in this country, the guys who own the banks, the guys who control the money, commerce, religion, the guys who control the country from behind the scenes. There's where the real power is. The real power is in the hands of people that you have never heard of and will never ever hear of. They run the country. And not only do they run the country, but they're in league with others like themselves around the world, and they run the world. And so the president really does not have very much power at all. He is like the president of a company, but he can be president of the eating company. But if you get in trouble and do something you're not supposed to, and they find you, and they find out the people who own the company, the big stockholders, they will replace you real quick. You're fired. You're not God. They'll fire you. The people who really own the company, they are the bosses. You're just the president of the corporation. But president of a corporation, that's why you have vice president. Because if we get tired of you being president and I own the company, I'll just fire you. I don't have to worry about firing you. The vice president takes over immediately. But we don't need you. And as soon as the vice president takes over, the first thing he has to do is appoint another vice president. In case I decide I don't like him, and I fire the next president. And so the president of a corporation really does not have very much power. It's the people who own the corporation. They have the power. So when you understand how the world works, I said so many times people don't. That's why we have no power. North America has really no power over their government. I mean, we're supposed to call it democracy, the people rule, and all of that stuff, but that's a bunch of malarkey. The reason why we don't have the power over government, we have no personal power, is because we have no personal knowledge. How many times have I said that on this show, that knowledge is power. So without the knowledge of how your government works, what the words mean, and how it was set up, how it operates in secret, that you don't know anything about. And so today, in North America, Canada, and America, the people of the country look at what's going on, and it's all crazy and ludicrous and stupid and wasting millions of dollars here and hundreds of millions of dollars there, and then raising the taxes for the people. And so people realize there's something really, really corrupt and really bad about government. But, however, knowing that, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Why? Because we don't know how it works. I don't know what to do. I mean, normally a normal person in the street sees a crime, they go report it to the government, right? But when the government is committing the crime, who do you report it to? God? Well, you might as well talk to God, because you're not going to do anything about government crimes, because they're in control. And so, it's really too bad the way the world works. And the people, though, have no power. Now, I should say something else, that in point of fact, here's a fact of this. The people of a country are the real power of the government. The people actually are the real power. Why? Simple. Because if you get say 25 million people in America showing up in Washington, D.C., coming from all over America, showing up in Washington, D.C., and you've got 25 billion people, and they're coming, with pitchforks and hammers, and they're like they're looking for Frankenstein, right? And if they show up in Washington, D.C., and there are 25 million of them, and they're making a demand, they're not asking, they're making a demand on the president to do something, or the Congress to do something, whatever it is. Believe me, it will get done quickly, because the Congress knows and the president knows what I know, is that you're not going to mess with 25 million people. That ain't smart. And you're not going to bring out the military. You don't bring out the military against your own people, because all over the world, people all over the world and political leaders will see, wow, Caesar is bringing out the palace guards against his own people. And so that doesn't look good at all. He's lost control. Not only do the people not like him, they're making demands on him, and he's scared to death and sending the Marines out. And so that is very bad business. That's very bad for politics. And so the people really are the power. All you need is about 10 million people uprising and saying, we've had enough of, we don't want this this or that law, or we don't want this or that person, whatever it is, and the people are the power. In relation to that, in the ancient Roman Empire, there was a maximum of law, that says the will of the people is the voice of God. That's actually in the law of Rome, the ancient Roman Empire. Think about that. The will of the people is the voice of God. Rome realized that if you get millions of people angry and they are demanding something, I don't care how powerful Caesar thinks he is, if you get that many people rising up against the empire and against the government, believe me, Caesar will do whatever it is that makes peace again. Whatever the people want, he will give them. Whatever it is, he will give them, so that everybody will be quiet and go home and relax, because if not, these people are mad, they're angry, and there's millions of them. And so the people are the power of the government, always. Another example I would give you is that if the king of China is meeting with the king of Russia and the king of America and the king of Canada and the king of Asia, and they're all the kings of meeting in a summit meeting, and you happen to be a king also. You are the king of Fredonia, a little island in the South Pacific that has 300 people living on it, most of them old people, but you're the king of the island. Are you going to be invited to that summit of the great kings? No. Why? Because the kings have more secretaries than you do, people under you, right? So you're just the king of about 250 old people on an island out in the middle of the ocean. You don't count. So that's why today people listen to the President of the United States, or to the Pope in Rome, or to the Prime Minister of England. This is why they listen to them. Why? Because they represent a powerful amount of people. The Pope speaks, he's representing hundreds of millions of people, and politicians know that. They maybe don't like him, can't stand him, but he does represent a powerful presence in the earth. You don't want to mess with him. So it's better to make a deal with him. And so that's the way politics works. So that's what I'm saying. People have no power because knowledge is power. And we were talking about banking. Well, first of all, as I said, I think modern day banking, I know that modern day banking all over the world began with what we call the Knights Templar, the Knights of the Temple of Solomon, the Knights Templar. And Steven Spielberg and George Lucas have talked about that in the Indiana Jones series. Shows in, like, for instance, Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade. And with The Last Crusade, the Nazis, Adolf Hitler, the Nazis are looking for the cup of Christ. The cup is called the cup of the Grail. And then there you find out that the real people who have the cup of the Grail, the cup of Christ, which is the most sacred symbol supposedly in Christianity as the cup of the Holy Grail. Well, in the movie, Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark, and of course Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade, you find that the Nazis are looking for the cup of the Grail, the Holy Cup, and Indiana Jones, representing America, is looking for the Grail. And so all of this is saying that what we see in the Bible talks about the biblical stories, and of course, getting back to the subject of banking, Indiana Jones confronts not only in the movie, The Last Crusade, Indiana Jones finally actually comes face to face with the people who have the real power, and they're Knights Templar, the Masonic order of Knights Templar, and they are holding the Grail, remember? And so it's the same Knights Templar that created international banking many years ago, back in the 4th or 5th century AD, with the coming of the Masonic order in the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church gave birth to Freemasons. And so they were called the Knights Templar. And the Knights Templar became so wealthy because they operated in secret behind the scenes. And so the Knights Templar, what they did was very clever. It was very dangerous roaming around the world with money in your pocket, with silver and gold coins in the Middle East. People would kill you just because they don't like your look. But if they found out you had a lot of gold coins on you, you were really looking for trouble. And so it became very dangerous to roam around the Middle East, just like it is today. Very dangerous to roam around the world with a lot of money in your pocket. And so, what the Knights Templars did is they set up forts. They set up forts around the Middle East, Near East and Middle East, and those forts were protecting the property of the Knights Templars and whatever they were protecting. Well, what they did is they invented something very interesting. If you were in Rome and you were a Knights Templar, or if you were a wealthy person in Europe, you were Catholic and you wanted to travel, you would go to the Knights Templar establishment, say in Rome or somewhere in Italy. You would go to a Knights Templar establishment, a church or a cathedral, and you would deposit your money with them in Europe. You would know it's safe there. You would deposit your money there, but then the Knights Templars would give you a piece of paper that said that they were holding your money, and that your money is in the hands of the Knights Templars in Rome or in Italy or wherever. And now you can go to the Middle East with just a piece of paper. Well, nobody's going to kill you for a piece of paper. And so then when you get to the Middle East, you go to one of the ports where the Knights Templars are, and they would then give you the money that the paperwork shows that you had. So the Knights Templars knew, it's their money and it's in their hands and it belongs to you. So that's where we get the idea of writing a check. And so they check with you. When you go to the Middle East, they would, if you say you have money in the bank, well, they would check on that to see if you have money in the bank. So that's when we get writing a check. And so the whole banking system today is based on the Masonic order of the Knights Templar. That's what we call today international and national banking. So if you go into a bank today, you need to understand banks are the offspring or the product. Banks today are the product of the Roman Catholic Church and the secret society of Knights Templars during the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th century AD, who set up a banking system for people to roam around the world and not have to carry money with them. Just take a piece of paper showing how much money you deposited, and you can pick that much money up when you get to where you're going. So that's where banking first started, within the Roman Catholic Church and the Knights Templar Masonic Lodge in the Roman Church. Now, having said that, now, of course, we get into something called commerce, because now you have banking, well, now you have commerce. In the dictionary, if you look at a law dictionary especially, go to a library or go on the web to a law dictionary and look up the word commerce. Commerce we think of as business, but look at the actual, in fact, lawful definition in a law dictionary of the word commerce. Commerce is sex. That's what the word commerce is in law, sex. And so it's a business. And so, it may be dangerous business, it may be funny business, but it's business. And that's why when you get married, you have to have a license. Why do you have to have a license? Because the bank owes you, and therefore you have to have a license to get married. Why? Because it's a business license. You can't do business without a license. Well, I'm not doing any business. Yes, you are, because according to international law, marriage is a business. Marriage is a business, and if you don't think it's a business, it's your business, none of my business. But it's a business, it's your business. Or if I'm getting married, that's my business, not yours. But if it's my business, it's still a business. And if the business doesn't work out, you're not going to die. You're going to court. And you better bring your house and your car and your children and everything else to court. Why? We're just talking business. It's a business. She's a corporation. This is what the way the bank set it up centuries ago. Centuries ago, it was decided that every human being was a business. And of course, your business is none of my business. But we both have a business. Therefore, the banks back in the Middle Ages decided the way they would operate is that every single human being is a corporation. Now understand this. No law in North America or in the Western civilization, no law, federal, state, county, city, commercial, nothing. No law in Western civilization, especially Canada and America, no laws apply to you, the person, the flesh and blood you. There are no laws that apply to you. Period. End of sentence. That's what the law says. However, in order to control you, the state and the bank decided a long time ago, before your mother was born, the bank decided that they will make everybody a corporation.
Yeah.
So that's why when you pass away, then you're a corpse. Because when you were alive, you were a corporation. And so then when you die, you are out of business. Of course, it's none of my business, but you're out of business. And so at the end of the world, the end of the world for you, not me, but the end of the world for you, you're out of business. And therefore you're a corpse, because you are a corporation. So the banks then decided that there is no law that you are under as a flesh and blood person. Because even your mother does not have control over your thoughts, over where you go or what you eat or where you decide to go or who you're out with, who you live with. Your mother doesn't even have that control over you. And you don't have that control over her. People will do whatever they're going to do, and that's none of your business. Where your mother goes and what she does, none of your business. Well, it's none of her business where you, as an adult, what you eat, where you go. It's none of her business.
When you listen to this, it's absolutely true, guys.
Laws do not apply to you personally.
So if you got a
No
car,
law in America or Canada applies to you personally. So how does it work? Well, the banks, along with government, have decided that you, many years ago, like I said, before your mother was born, the banks decided that you, in order to control you, since nobody can control you, your mother can't even control you, your friends who are right next to you, they can't control you. And so the banks know, well, hell, if his mother can't control him, I know I can. So what they did is they created another you.
the straw
Now,
man.
there's two of them. There's the personal you that nobody can
They call it the
control.
straw man or
And
the
there is the
fiction.
which is a business
Basically, your signature.
the government controls. So you see, the government cannot control can't control who you talk to, who you see, and where you go to eat, what you're thinking, what your ideas are. They don't know what your ideas are. They don't care, because they got no control over that at all. But what you do in business, now that's different. When you go public and you get a license to do business, now what you do is not perfect. Now
I think that's the
when the
one.
government can now step in and decide what you're going to do and what you can't do, because it's no longer personal. Now it's you and the government. Therefore, if you're going to get married, you're going to make money. Your wife may be making money. You may open up a company and a corporation. You may this, you may do that. The government has control over that because they gave you a license to do business. And so you have to have a license. Well, the same reason why that lawyers, attorneys have to have a license to practice law. Why? Simple, because the attorneys and the lawyers are representing you in a court using law books. They've studied the law books. You haven't. They have. And therefore, when they're through studying the law books, they take a test.
And what people don't realise is the law books are
a law degree. Now
they're unconstitutional. He only refers to the
lawfully. They can represent you now in court.
Providing you agree.
Because you are a corporation, and they cannot represent you, your flesh and blood, but they can represent you legally, lawfully, in business. Your marriage is a business. So, like I said, there's a big difference between you personally and you as a business. And so there's two of you. And so that's where the banks now got you. Because when you walk into a bank or doing any business with the bank, there's two of you in the bank. There's the personal one, wearing the shirt and the tie that you're wearing, and the bank has got nothing to do with that. They don't care where you eat, who you're living with, they don't care about that. That's personal. But now you're going to represent yourself in business. So now that's government. And so that's why there's two of you. Now, how do you know the difference? How would anybody looking at you know the difference between you personally and you in government you? Because the two of you, there's a private you and a public. How do you tell the difference? Very simple. The way you sign your name.
There you go, your signature.
The way you sign your name will tell the world and government and the law which one they're dealing with. So when you sign your name, upper and lower case, as according to British Styles magazine, the British Maritime Law, when you sign your name, upper and lower case, capital letter,
Your name,
lower
signature.
case, capital letter, lower case. Upper and lower case means your personal body. That means your personal self. However, if you're going to do business, then the law says your name must be in all capital letters. Why? Because you are now dealing in capital, money. You're now dealing with money and business and government.
Unfortunately, Maxwell, I think the first victims of banking system are students. Because university is fucking expensive, and after their students, their debts are very high, thousands.
Yeah, I know. I know. Let me tell you something about that. When a student applies for a loan, for the government loan, how that really works. According to law, according to actual bank law, North America, Canada and America, according to bank law, banks cannot loan money. Period.
That's
And
true,
so
that, by the
a
way,
bank
guys.
cannot loan money.
They can't loan
I
money.
put
So it's illegal. It's fraud.
if I walk into a bank and I put $25,000 of my money into the bank, into my account in cash, and the next day you come in and want a $25,000 loan and they finance it for you, what did they do? Did they give you my $25,000 that I put in? I didn't put my money in there so you could go buy your boat. The hell is wrong with you? I didn't give the bank money so they could give it to you. And so, well, that's the law says they can't give you my money. That's my money. Well, the bank, at the end of each banking day, the bank has written all kinds of checks for people to buy houses and boats and cars, planes and everything else. At the end of their banking day, maybe the bank has written $1 million worth of business that day. That they financed a bunch of cars and a couple of apartment buildings, and so they've spent, they have written checks for $1.5 million in one day. Where did that money come from? Because you can bet it didn't come from my money. I walk in there, I want to see my money. I don't care how many checks you wrote for everybody else. That's wonderful. But don't give them my money. And so the law says the banks cannot loan anybody's money to anybody, period.
Yeah,
But money
it's
in the
fraud.
bank, that's your money. They cannot give it to somebody else. Well, then the question should be, well, if you did $1 million worth of business today, financing homes and cars and tractors and motorcycles and everything else, where did you get the money? And then you find out, well, they're not really, nobody got loaned anything. Nobody got money for anything. Here's the way it works. When you go into an auto agency, for instance, you want to buy a new car. Let's say the new car is priced at $30,000. Okay. The reason we know it's $30,000 is because each and every car, according to the law, each car must be appraised by a state-approved appraiser. So there are companies that approve that will appraise every new car and stamp on the paperwork that this car is, according to government records, worth $30,000. So the government says, okay, that's what you say it's worth. That's what it's worth. You're the appraiser. Now that car is worth $30,000, and you want to buy it, but you don't have the money. So what do they do? When you go into to buy the car, if your credit looks good, you look like you could pay the car off, what they will do is they will take the paperwork. They say go to the auto agency and pick up the paperwork and bring it to the bank. Okay, so you go back to the car agency, they get the paperwork, you sign all the papers, then you take all the paperwork over to the bank. Now the bank now has the paperwork. In law and in commerce, it's called commercial paper. Commercial paper, meaning that document you brought in from the car agency is worth $30,000. It's representing $30,000 in business. And so they take that paperwork and they put it into an account. They open up a bank account in your name.
What's he doing?
But you don't know that. This is not for you to know. They open up a bank account. And you cannot,
I think,
according to federal law, nobody can open a bank account without signing their name. I can't open up a bank account in your name and sign your name. That's fraud. I'll go to jail. And if you're going to open up a bank account, you have to sign the paperwork that you're opening a bank account. And if you don't sign the paper, then you're not opening any bank account. And so when the bank takes that paperwork from the car agency, they open up a bank account in your name. But they don't tell you they're doing that. That's secret. Then they open up the bank account in your name. Then they take the paperwork, which is worth $30,000. It represents $30,000. and they put that paper.
Guys, I don't know. I think I'm going to call it a day here actually until I work it out. If you still want to carry on listening to this, you can find it on YouTube. What I'm listening to. His name's Jordan Maxwell, and it's called Zombie Alert. It's noisy. Cats. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon.